Hello, I'm Mantastic'c and Fantastic, and today I want to talk about the Mystics and Spectres event that has just gone live in North America. So, the Mystics and Spectres event is a special kind of rare egg machine twist because it is actually the regular rare egg machine that has been slightly tweaked. So it means it only costs you 5 magic stones to roll, but there's only a 41% chance to get any of the event cards, and the event cards I'm going to refer to as Mystics and Spectres. So only a 41% chance to get these cards, and if you've never rolled in the past before, there is definitely some merits in doing so because there are at least weapon assists across the rarities, which, you know, gives you a bit more value because even if you get a duplicate card, it won't be too painful, hopefully, but at the same time, you don't have the chance of, you know, just not rolling event cards and getting like a 5-star Pantheon card with no evolutions. It's kind of distressing. But I guess to zest it up, so to speak, Gung-Ho has sprinkled in some Godfest exclusives, which brings the total number of goodies of event cards plus Godfest exclusives to 50.25%. So that's actually a pretty good deal when you think about it for 5 magic stones, especially if you've never rolled in the past beforehand, because I always like to say that new is new, and generally speaking, new cards can potentially plug holes in your given monster box. Furthermore, because this is a Gung-Ho owned property, so to speak, there's no licensing issues, which means it's going to return on a regular basis. It's going to keep coming back, and there's always that chance that, you know, maybe these cards that you rolled beforehand are going to receive meaningful buffs and suddenly have usage once again. But if that being said, for this particular rerun, there are no new cards, and only the top rarity cards were buffed, the 7 stars, and everything else is just as useful, or maybe not so useful as it was prior to this, so it can be a little distressing. There are some definite value to be had in this event for sure, and with that being said, I just want to talk and take a look at the 7-star cards as well as maybe some of the 6-star cards that are notable. So first things first is Seina, and Seina can be seen as a budget or alternative Seawolf pairing. If you don't have your own Seawolf, Seina can definitely be something meaningful if you're fortunate enough to roll it. With that being said, you can actually purchase or monster exchange any of these cards here, so it can be a little distressing because you actually have to roll them, and it's only a 1% chance. So for Seina, after 25 turns, you will transform, and once you are transformed, you've got 777, double VDP. You're definitely doing large amounts of damage with that VDP active or VDP awakening, and their active skill on a 2-turn cooldown gives you a movement time buff, gives you a personal attack multiplier for the card themselves. Probably doesn't make too much of a difference, especially for the main attribute, but then the sub attribute can do a little bit more oomph because transforming cards cannot double damage cap. Then you also get to unlock the board and create 3 fire, water, and heart orbs, which is perfect. It's all you need for activation for your Seawolf or Seina teams. And in theory, Seina can be a potential sub for Seawolf teams, especially if you don't have a good solution for like board unlocking or movement time buffing. Seina could be possibly useful, but just be mindful of the fact that both Seawolves and Seina have only 3 skill boosts. But for the Mystic and Spectre 7-star cards, they received full bind immunity in their base form, which means that if you are playing dungeons where they will preemptively bind your cards, you don't have to run bind immunity weapon assist. That gives you more flexibility to run something like, say, a Mage's weapon, which is definitely quite a strong card because it gives you a single skill boost and 3 team HPs. So some value in just being bind immune in their base form, but it's still a respectable leader with reasonable bulk, would like to have auto follow attacks. So like I said, if you have no Seawolf, you rolled Seina, you can pair with a Seawolf friend, and you're going to have a reasonably good time. For their weapon assist, this one is still, I think, a little highly situational perhaps, but I feel that their other weapon assist is quite exciting because you get the same bind immunity, the enhanced red and water or combo awakenings, you get a devil killer and tape resist. So for a transforming card to inherit this, it gives them bonus damage, 20% more damage because their damage cap is increased by 20% with a killer awakening. So in devil heavy spawn dungeons where you need bind immunity and ideally you have multiple red and water combos, you're going to have a much better time with this weapon assist. So if you don't feel like you get any value from Seina in their base form, this weapon assist will be definitely meaningful. For Ryumei has received various buffs over time, and there was a point where I thought they were pretty good. They actually have 4 skill boosts before they transform. That definitely greatly eases team building requirements because, you know, an extra skill boost gives you quite a big edge over, you know, the competition, so to speak. And then after 25 turns, you do transform, but unfortunately, they just didn't get enough love, I feel, overall. They're still heavily L-based. Like, their active skills only is a 3-turn cooldown, not 2. Much harder to loop. And the active skill gives you no Skyfalls for 1, 1 turn, movement time buff, increased combo count by 4, which basically offsets the fact that there were no Skyfalls, and you get to unlock the board and give yourself 3 fire, light, and heart orbs. So it doesn't guarantee activation, unfortunately, for like, matching just blobs of light. If you want to hit like light L's, unfortunately not. But on the bright side, their leader skill has been actually tweaked. You actually have the same 16 times effective health, and 16 times effective health is basically the highest we're ever going to really go, at least at this point in time. So you are bulky, but the problem is you don't get the bonus combos. I guess you can argue that the active skill offsets that, but you don't get auto follow attack either. But for Dragon and God type cards, if you match 5 or more connected orbs, you get the damage reduction. It doesn't care what 5 or more orbs are connected. It could be anything, poison, jammers, hearts, whatever it is, you can do it. So in theory, you should always be able to activate, which, gives yourself significantly more consistency. And in theory, that also means they could asymmetrically pair with, light blob-based leaders like Saphira, but at the same time, I don't think that's really necessarily going to be the best play, because if you have your own light blob leaders, you're better off pairing with Saphira and not having to deal with these extra L's, a non-looping active skill. Ryumei just needs a little bit more love. They need maybe a way to deal with voids, because they have no way to deal with damage voids because they don't have VDP and their active skill doesn't help with that. They need a way to deal with follow-up attacks. So if you can address those two aspects, Ryumei definitely can be stronger, but I feel like they're just a little underwhelming because of that. On the other hand, their weapon assist gives you similar idea to the other ones. It's a skill boost with the OEs and a killer, but the active skill is a full cleric active skill, full heal, and 2 turns of combo count and 2 turns of light attack. So maybe situationally, if you just want damage and skill boost, and you need an extra cleric active for the beginning of the dungeon because there's back-to-back Awoken Binds or Unmatchable, maybe a possible solution, but I still feel like it's a little underwhelming as a whole, which is kind of sad for a 1% roll card. They should be much stronger in my opinion. Mikage has received little buffs over time, and amusingly enough, there's still actually a respectable leader that can in theory clear large amounts of content, because after 25 turns of waiting or skill boosting, you transform, and they are a little excessive in terms of damage when you think about it, but they at least have the VDP to deal with void spawns. They have the killers, which gives them a little bit of extra damage against those types of spawns. Remember, anytime there's a killer awakening on a card, they gain a 20% boost to the damage cap. This only works if the card is not limit broken, has the 1.5 or 2 times damage cap latents. So transforming cards gain a bit more zest out of these killer awakenings, but of course that means Mikage is just only about damage. There's no skill bind resist, so you need to make sure you bring some sort of solution for that. But their active skill has been buffed in a truly meaningful way, because it is a 3-turn cooldown now, and it creates a single spinner that lasts for 3 turns. So 100% uptime on spinners. And we've seen with Ateli and Raffine and these other cool rainbow cards that spinners are great. You turn spinners into winners, because in theory, with the extra amount of movement time that Mikage brings, because it's plus 6 seconds per leader, 12 seconds plus 5 is 17 seconds of orb movement time, plus probably some time extends across your team. You're going to be able to spin out any orb that you want to have. And for Mikage's leader skill, you need to match 3 or more dart combos for your damage reduction. For the damage output itself, all you need is 2 different colors, which is definitely going to happen in all cases. So if you know the dungeon well, and you know there is no preemptive on the next floor, you can just activate your, just match 2 colors. And with 484 times per attack multiplier, that's a huge attack multiplier for your entire team. So your damage output is going to be high. You're most likely going to be matching multiple dart combos because you can fish them out from the spinner. And because the spinner is a 3-turn cooldown, it means if you symmetrically pair, one Mikage can actually be used for the inherit. You can just inherit something over top of it, let it charge up, use it, and you don't have to worry about having no spinners for other parts of the dungeon. It's pretty nice quality of life improvement overall, because consistency was the biggest hurdle for Mikage, and now you have more consistency and more flexibility of your active skills. You have bonus combos, you have auto follow attack, so in theory, if you can play skillfully enough, Mikage could clear, I'd say, the vast majority, or maybe even all the content with enough effort overall. But it is a taxing playstyle. It requires thinking. Any little mess up is guaranteed death, but if you feel adventurous, Mikage is actually still a viable leader. And then if for whatever reason you don't like them as a leader, their weapon assist is again, it could be potentially situationally helpful, but I'm more inclined to keep them as a leader because it is technically a solution if you have at least a reasonable box, because they don't have to just run dark-based cards in order to function. They can run any type of card. There's no typing requirement, there's no color requirement, so obviously dark is preferable, but you can have some flexibility in that sense. And then finally, the last 7-star card, Touka, has gained a skill charge, which I'm not quite sure why. I know the rainbow base, but it's kind of odd to have here, I feel, because probably you want to just transform at 25 turns anyways. But regardless of that, once you do transform, you have 10 combo, 3 attribute awakenings, so 3 attribute awakenings, so lots of personal damage, because, you know, it's that's just large amounts of personal damage. They don't have to worry about double capping. Their sub-attribute and white deal meaningful damage. They have an L. They still are not bind immune in any way, so that is a little bit of a detriment compared to the original 3, which are bind immune at least. But their active skill has been buffed to a 2-turn cooldown, which means, in theory, dual leaders can loop their active skill, and the active skill gives you 3 times attack for that given monster, which is excessive because they can't double damage cap. You unlock the board and create 6 fire, wood, light, dark, and heal orbs. So you're guaranteed 10 combos with this, and with their leader skill, dual leaders, you're giving yourself 18 combos. Completely unnecessary and excessive, but you don't have auto follow attack. But the biggest kicker is you don't make water orbs. And the fact that you don't make water orbs means you deny yourself skill charge, you deny yourself the VDP awakening, which is definitely a bit of a detriment when you think about it, because one of the nice aspects of rainbow-based teams is to be able to charge up your active skills significantly faster and being able to, you know, ignore damage void by just matching orbs. You can't do that with this card here, which definitely can be a bit of a detriment when I think about it overall. But if you have a way to have easy access to void, damage void, because you're not getting that skill charge, unfortunately, and you have ways to get auto follow attack with either a column of hard ups, which is definitely doable with your board changer, or you're getting like auto follow attack from asymmetrical pairing, maybe you can make it work. Or you can just pair with other cards who have, you know, a auto follow attack and only need to match off of 3 or 4 orbs, then you can function. But I think the fact that you don't make water orbs is definitely a big detriment. They still are definitely usable, but I feel like they're just going to be a little weaker overall. I guess the bright side is if you try and like use their active skill, you're guaranteed 6 dark, which is what you need for 2 dark combos, but other rainbow boards may not guarantee you that, which is definitely a bit of a problem. And furthermore, their shielding value is lower than Mikage, for instance, and the effective health is lower, so it just gives them, I feel like, they're just not that meaningful by comparison. For their weapon assist, they have God Killer and they have skill boost, like again, following the similar pattern. They get a 3-turn delay and 2 turns of void, damage void. Maybe it's situationally helpful, but I feel like as a whole, the 7 stars are like nice to have, but I don't truly feel like they're going to advance or propel your monster box to the extent that like what I think top rarity cards should be doing. But with that being said, Mashiro is potentially possibly the star of this event, and they are a 6-star card, which means you have to roll them. It's going to be a terribly challenging affair, I feel like. It's not the highest rolling chances, and you may be disappointed, but if you do roll them, they are meaningful. So, in their base form, it's 2 skill boosts with bind immunity, and then their active skill when they transform after 18 turns, which is definitely doable, gives you a 50% shield, which, you know, can help you bridge that gap between other cards transforming, because you suddenly gain double your health, so to speak, with 50% damage reduction. And once they do transform, they become incredibly exciting because of All Might synergy. We'll look at him later. So, their transform state has 4 3-attribute awakenings, so meaningful amounts of personal damage. They have Guard Break, which can be helpful because against spawns of huge defense, which is becoming a bit more common. You can pierce through, tape resist, movement time, but it's the 1-turn active skill. It cuts your own HP to 1, which is definitely a detriment, but you have an extra zest. You have 1.5 times attack for the owning monsters, so their personal damage is actually quite high, and the fact that they can't double damage cap means they are going to, you know, still have potentially 2 damage caps with their sub-attribute, maybe. But their active skill creates 3 fire, water, wood, light, and dark, and hearts over any orbs. So, you're assuming no locked orbs, you're guaranteed rainbow activation, which is vital for your VDP latent, which is vital for your guard skill charge awakening. It's vital for guard break as well. Like, there are many benefits to having a full rainbow board changer, and it's a 1-turn cooldown. So again, assuming no locked orbs, you have guaranteed 100% uptime on your leader skills that require full rainbow board changing. But the HP being reset to 1 has a huge benefit because of All Might synergy. And All Might gives you a 2-turn active skill that if you're below 20% health, which is guaranteed when Mashiro's active skill is used, you gain 10 times attack for this monster, so he's probably hitting gargantuan amounts of damage because, you know, the attack while below 50%, it's 2.2 times personal damage with that 10 combo. Oh my goodness, so much personal damage plus 10 times more. And, you know, because it's rainbow-based teams using, the light sub-attribute is a bit of a detriment, so to speak. But again, I feel like that sub-attribute can deal meaningful amounts of damage, and he's definitely a great candidate for the double damage cap latent. But continuing their active skill, it gives you 1 turn of Void, Damage Void, which is vital for rainbow-based teams, and 1 turn of damage absorption and attribute absorption cancellation. And this is a 2-turn cooldown, so every other turn you get Mashiro, All Might's active skill, and with Mashiro you have guaranteed rainbow activation and the HP cutting to 1. Just make sure you have some way to heal back up your health to full health or high enough to survive whatever hit comes next. But the idea is with All Might and Mashiro, you don't have to run the VDP latent, because in theory every other turn you can just pierce through voids, and that's probably more than enough when you think about it. Which means all cards now can run double damage cap that are entitled to run it, which gives you a big advantage in team building because you can hit extra hard. And hitting harder is always good because if you can kill a spawn in, like, say 2 turns instead of 3 turns, there's a good chance you didn't die to some silly mechanic. So Mashiro is definitely one of the big stars from this event, but, you know, it's a 6-star rarity card. You can't even, like, there's no orb skin bundle for it. There's no way to purchase it. You have to roll it. You can't monster exchange. But with that being said, let me know what you think about the Mystics and Spectres events in the comments down below. Do you think it's worth rolling in? I feel like if you haven't rolled in the past, it's definitely not a bad idea to roll a little bit, because 50% chance for either an event card or a Godfest exclusive is a pretty good chance overall. But for players like myself, I'm not going to be rolling in it. Like, sure, this is definitely a better time to roll compared to when I rolled in the past from a rolling rates point of view, but I've rolled a large chunk of the top rarity cards. There's no real motivation for me to get more top rarity cards. I highly doubt I'm going to get Mashiro, and if you do have Gung Ho Loki, they are in theory a alternative to Mashiro if you have All Might, so you may or may not necessarily need them if you're fortunate enough. And I do actually have Gung Ho Loki on my main account, so a little less incentivized to actually, you know, acquire Mashiro. But of course, if I roll it, happy times. But with that being said, let me know what you think about this event in the comments down below. Do you think it's actually worth rolling in, or are you just gonna, like, pretend it doesn't exist because, you know, Monogatari collab is coming on Monday and it might be a bit more exciting overall? Regardless of all that, hopefully you all have a truly fantastic day. I wish you all the best luck in your own pet adventures, and happy puzzling.